Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about how I use technology in my classrooms and when I am coaching. I am a physical education teacher for elementary students grades K through 4, and I am a varsity basketball coach in a small town. I use technology every day in different degrees. The one thing I use every day, it's the most basic thing in my opinion, but that is a stopwatch. I use a stopwatch every day for things as little as timing, how long it takes my classes to get to class, and then for various activities including the mile run and the shuttle run, which are two things that we do as part of the Presidential Fitness Challenge. I also use my stopwatch to time between stations when we do our station work in our classes. I also use the stopwatch when we do stations in my practice and when we do sprints in practice when we're trying to time to see how fast it takes for people to finish a certain sprint drill that we might be doing. So that's one thing that I use on a regular basis in my classes and when I coach. Another thing that I use in my classrooms is a pedometer. Pedometer is used to track how many steps you take, and we use this for many different reasons. I use this when we do my endurance walk or run. I also use it with my students that sometimes will not participate or do not want to participate in certain activities. I will give them a pedometer and have them go walk around the track or around the field, and we will track how much they walk at the end of the class. I also have a unit where we strictly use the pedometers just for walking, and we see how many steps people can take per class. When I use that, I usually track the data after I get the results with pen and paper, and then I have to go and I convert that to my Microsoft Excel document. So that's another way that I use technology. I also use my heart rate monitors, which I have right here with you. This is something that I use usually with my older students. We just simply have them put this on, and they put on the stopwatch that goes with it. And this they use for the entire class. They can see what their heart rate is and how it fluctuates. We use this so we can establish what their target heart rate zone should be. This has been very helpful because some students, they come in, they're not really sure what they should be doing or how should they be using this. Once we teach them this, they also learn as to what their heart rate is, what their resting heart rate is, what their target heart rate is, and what their maximum heart rate should be. So this is something that we use, and we find this to be very handy. Another thing that my school does is that we participate in the Jump Rope for Heart in collaboration with the American Heart Association. When we do this, my students have the ability to either raise funds through just going to their friends, to their neighbors, to their relatives, and simply getting donations through cash and or check. Some students, however, they really enjoy creating their own web page, and with this, every time they get a donation online, they can see it on their web page. It tracks it, and it basically is like a beeping heart. So every time they get any kind of a donation, it goes up, and their computer sometimes will make a noise letting them know, and then it goes up and it shows them exactly what their total amount is. So that's something that some of my students have really bought into and have a good time, have a fun time creating their own website. So that's another way that we use technology. One way that I am looking to really improve on in technology within my classes is through the use of an iPad. Right now, as I had stated earlier, I use a lot of paper and pencil documentation, and then I go and convert that over to a Word document. What I'm finding seems to be much easier is just simply taking all the data from the first time I get it and using my iPad to input all of that. So this is something, as I go forward, I really plan to use, and hopefully it'll make my life a lot easier instead of really doing the same thing more than once, whereas I write it down, then I put it into the computer. This will hopefully streamline everything for me. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to do as I go forward, and really looking to implement this next year into my classes. Another thing that I use on a regular basis is a CD player. I know this sounds pretty basic, but I use the CD player for many things. I use it when we are doing our stations, which we do quite a bit of. With the size of my classes, I break my group down into small groups and we do a lot of station work. So we use the CD player for that, as they're in the stations, and then as they move from station to station, the music is playing. I also use my CD player when I do my music unit, my music and my dancing unit, which we do usually for about 2 to 3 weeks every year. And obviously I need to have the CD player playing my music when we are doing our line dancing and or our synchronized dancing. So that's something that we use the CD player for. And I also sometimes have the ability, I use my iPod, which I can plug into the docking station, and depending on what the unit is, I have music that kind of relates to that type of unit. So that's another thing that we do use on a regular basis. Within my coaching, I actually use, it's pretty simple, but we use our video camera. We videotape mostly all of our practices, and we videotape all of our games. With the practices, it allows me to come home, watch what we did in practice, and then break it down so that I can show my students or mostly my athletes exactly what they did right and or what they did wrong and what we can improve upon. What we've been using this past year at my school, in addition to just the computer and the video camera, is we've been using a program called Huddle. But this program allows us to videotape the games and then go back, watch the games, break them down segment by segment, and within them I can videotape my players in individuals and or as a whole team. And then I can I can make some changes to that. I can send out some things to just certain players on the team, and or I can send things to the whole team. I can edit the film so that I can telestrate on this. I can also make comments to my players. So this has been very, very helpful, and it's been breaking down all the way to making a highlight film for a player, to showing them exactly what we did wrong and what we can improve upon. And in my experience, what I've seen is the video doesn't lie. So if the player is ever questioning me about what I said to him, well, we can go back to the video, and if he didn't close out on that player, and he thinks he did for example, on a 3-point shot, and he's supposed to go out and close out on that player, and if he did not, but he continuously says, "Coach, I went out on the player, I went out," well, we go back to the videotape, and sure enough, you can either see that he went out and closed out on the player, or he did not close out on the player. So those are things that the Huddle really has been very, very helpful for, and my whole school has been switching over to it on all sports, and the feedback we received has been very positive so far. I know personally, I've really enjoyed it. So those are some of the things that I use every day for technology. I will say I am not the most technologically savvy student out there and or coach out there, but I am finding ways to improve myself every day, and using the iPad, using the Huddle, those are things that I think are going to help me as I go forward, but then also the basic things as a stopwatch is something that I think will never go out of style and I will continue to use. So I hope you found this information useful and helpful, and good luck to everyone in the future, and I look forward to any feedback that you want to provide. Thank you very much.